Here we've got the 69 Camaro. John's been working on this quite a bit. We had to redo almost the entire car. This is the car that was done at another shop a few years ago, and they just kind of hacked it together. And when we stripped it, this car actually came in to get the doors repaired. The doors were starting to rust a little bit. We stripped the doors. We found a lot of things we didn't like, and the owner wanted to maybe just repaint the whole car, so we stripped the car and found a lot of things that we didn't like. So now this car has had inner and outer wheelhouses. It's getting quarters. There was some rust repair behind the quarters that wasn't previously fixed. The car is getting quarters, roof skin, taillight panel, and the front of the car is all aftermarket sheet metal as well. So at this point, really the only original metal on this car is the roof structure, the trunk, and the package tray. John has pre-fit all these panels, and that's the red primer that you see sprayed everywhere. That's a weld-through primer that we use along the spot weld areas. And at this point, John is starting to put it back together after we've pre-fit everything. We're happy with the gaps, with the way things fit panel to panel wise, and now John is putting it back together, and then we're gonna actually weld it together. And once we get this car welded together, like I said, this car came in to get the doors fixed originally. Now it's going on the rotisserie. So once we get the quarters on, get everything welded back into place, it has a stock stub. This car has an LS1 with a 4L60 stock stub, and the stock stub is leaving. The LS is going to the motor shop. It's getting heads and cam put in it, and we're putting a Speedway front stub in with coilovers. We're putting a 4-link in the back, getting rid of the leaf spring setup back in the back. We're going to put a 4-link, QA1 4-link in the back, and then this car is going to go on the rotisserie. We're not exactly sure what color the car is going to be yet. It was black with white stripes, and the owner likes that, but he's also got a newer ZL1, and I think it would be cool to have a matching set. And here we've got the Nova. John's kind of been back and forth between the Camaro and the Nova. We've been starting to fit this back together. This was on the rotisserie, blasted, epoxied, and now is getting reassembled so that we can start body work on this car. This car is it's going to be roughly 1,000 horse LT4 with a 10-speed automatic. It's got a 9-inch in the back, 4-link. It's got the Detroit Speed 4-link setup in the back. We have done subframe connectors. This car is almost all aftermarket. The cowl's aftermarket, rockers, doors, quarters, floors, inner and outer wheelhouses, trunk floor, roof skin. The only original metal on this car is the firewall, the roof structure, and the trunk lid. So here we've got the 65 Lincoln that we've been working on, and we're getting in the final stages of doing body work and filler work on this car before we go to high build primer, over filler work. And obviously we did all our gaps during metal work. So what we've done at this point is panel to panel blocked everything. So when we look down this, everything fits perfect from one panel to the next. And now that it's straight and we've got the car, I'll say straight, it's finished in 150 right now. And now we get into the more detailed kind of things, like cleaning out all the holes. We're sanding any filler off the back edges that might have rolled around this edge while we're spreading filler on this car. We're cleaning up the backside edges. We're making sure our edges on the sides are nice and clean and crisp. And we're looking for little stuff like this, where this little nick is in that edge. It's kind of hard to see. There's a little nick right there. We're looking for stuff like that. How this edge is a little jagged right here. We're looking for pinholes, for example, like this. We're looking for stuff like that. We're gonna come in, fix all that, touch little tiny things up with glaze, fix things like this, where this corner is kind of jagged around this fuel door gap. We're gonna just touch up some things like this, get these 80 grit scratches out. This is where you need to be very thorough, especially if you're trying to prime once. This car will probably get primed twice just because it's so long and straight and it's going to be black. It's got to be nice. So that's what we're looking for at this point, is just details. Holes, edges, back sides of things, panel to panel, pinholes. This is the point where we have to get very meticulous with the body work, and especially the filling of the pinholes. This is a big car. I spent almost all day on just filling pinholes from the back corner to the front corner on this side yesterday, and just finishing wheel lips, insides, things like the front edges, the very small things that will make all the difference, especially on a black car. So once we get this car in primer, probably next week, we're gonna put L411 on this high build epoxy primer. And once we do that, this is gonna go kind of back into a fabrication type stage. We're gonna start getting our air ride set up on the car. Right now we've got it kind of in monster truck mode. We've got doesn't even have springs in it right now. It's got box tubes in there so that we could raise it up a bit for Bodywork, so that we're not laying on the floor. At this point, we're gonna get it in primer, then we're gonna start doing air ride. We're gonna start doing making our switchboard, I'll say, for the top. We need to make sure the top goes up and down nice, that it fits the window post nicely. We're also going to be switching the window regulators from the Lincoln version to a simple hot rod type window regulator. We're gonna shave a lot of weight out of those doors by doing that. So because these window motors are so heavy, these doors are notorious for cracking on the door shells, and I think 3 of these doors had cracked on the door shells. We've obviously fixed that at this point, but we're gonna switch it over to a much simpler system. We're gonna put a different lock system in it with a key fob. The lock system in these Lincolns is actually run off of engine vacuum, which is one of the stupidest things that I've ever seen, honestly. So you can't lock or unlock the doors or anything unless the engine's running, and there was probably 8 vacuum lines that went into the car. So if you ever had a vacuum leak, good luck finding it. We're gonna change all that over, and once we get all of the modifying done as far as suspension and window regulators, locks, things like that, anything that we're gonna change and simplify that we may need to do before we paint the car, that's what we're gonna do right after it's primed. While this is drying and getting some fabrication work done to it, we're gonna go on to the Nova in there. As you can see it peeking through there. We're gonna go on to that. We started putting that together the other day. That's been epoxied and is gonna be coming in here for this same thing, to get body worked and primed and so on. So this is the 74 Buick Electra. Tyler's been working on this, getting it back together. We did hit a bit of a roadblock with this. The owner wants to send all the trim and stainless out to get repolished now, which in the beginning we kind of talked about not doing that, but now he thinks the car is too nice not to, and we all agree that it will be much better if it's replated and repolished. So that sets this one back about 5 months or so. So what we're doing now is getting everything back together as much as we can without trim and bumpers, things like that. So it is running at the moment, runs and moves under its own power, but we just can't finish a lot of things until we put the trim on. So ultimately, being that we have to wait about 5 months for this car is actually going to go back to the owner for the winter and sit in his heated garage so that it doesn't have to be here. Because what we would have to do is put it out in a storage container, because we don't have the room for it to just sit in the shop, especially a car like this that's done or mostly done and clean and polished. We really don't want them just hanging out. So this one is gonna get a few things wrapped up here. We're gonna finish exhaust, and it's gonna go home for a little while until we get our bumpers and our trim and all that back.